Yo, what's up, everybody? It is Orange Bloods live on the 4th of July, and I hope I'm not dragging too much. I am Jeff Ketchum. We are Orange Bloods. Do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to do all those things. I'm looking at it right now, and it does look like we've got some weird dragging going, so I'm going to wait just Okay. Are we still dragging? We'll do our best. Guys, Felix Ojo Day, Mansfield offensive line target, the number one guy in the offensive line rankings for everybody. He's the number one offensive lineman in the state of Texas. He's the number one target for the Longhorns in recruiting. He's making his decision literally any minute now. So as we begin things, it's a little bit of a Felix Ojo reaction show. John Turntine will have his announcement a little bit later on during this show, potentially, depending on how long we go. So a lot to get to. I'm waiting to kind of hear what's going on with Ojo's announcement. Again, the Lake Ridge offensive line prospect, ranked number 9 nationally by Rivals, number 11 nationally by On3, number 5 nationally by 24/7, number 20 nationally by ESPN. Everybody knows that a week ago, struggled at the Rivals camp in Indianapolis, and there's been a lot of conversation about whether or not he was a little overrated. How many years will it take for him to be ready to play at a high level? He is a much discussed offensive line recruit, and yet the thing that stands out today isn't so much of the discussion about how good he is and kind of what he is as a prospect, as much as who is he going to select. We've been talking about since Tuesday, really on the channel since Wednesday, that Texas Tech has emerged as now they're the favorite. It will be a surprise if he announces anything other than Texas Tech, I think, today. Those are the expectations. You started to see the national voices, the Steve Wiltfongs of the world of Rivals.com. That's weird to say, but he is now on 3 Rivals, technically Rivals, I guess. He and other people started to put in their future casts for Texas Tech. The backstory to this is, look, and I'll just walk everybody through this while we wait for the announcement, which literally could come at any moment. Maybe one of the reasons why I'm dragging a little bit on the stream is because I've got 19 things open at once trying to keep up with the announcement, the least of which won't be a story on orangebloods.com with my report on what the expectation will be, that he will likely end up at Texas Tech. The feeling is that John Turntine later this afternoon will announce that he's going to Texas. So it will be, in all likelihood, a very mixed bag on the Felix Ojo front. Again, as we wait for the announcement, let me walk everybody through a little bit of what this week has been like. And I'll even give you the full story. Again, while we wait for an announcement from Ojo, Texas Tech was not in his list of announced top 4 literally just a few days ago. He's been to Tech. I think they gave him, which was reported at the time, a monster NIL offer back in April. I mean, I remember texting sources saying, have you guys heard about this reported monster offer for Felix Ojo? And the response I got at the time was, yeah, but like sometimes that money's not even real, and not a whole lot was really made out of it. On Tuesday, we got word, not me, this was Sukamel. Like Sukamel had a source, but Sukamel and I are talking about it. He had a source who was like, yo, man, it's going to be Tech. And couldn't really get into the guts of it all, but there was no reason for us. We wondered, is there some smoke and mirror stuff going on here? We had to check with other sources. We did. We had tech sources telling us, hey, there's a vibe that they're going to get a big announcement on Friday. Nobody's saying nothing. We'd have other sources reach out to higher ups at Texas Tech in their football department and say, hey, man, what's going on? Oh, nothing, man. We don't know what any of this is about. I was like, okay. Depending on who you talk to, the same person at Texas Tech is telling one person one thing, another person another. Meanwhile, like I said, we have our own source, our first source telling us this. We started to get the word out. Sukamel and I talked on Tuesday night, and we felt like, well, I told Sukamel, I was like, this isn't going to make it till Wednesday at noon. So we should do something. We normally have a Orange Bloods Truth and Rumors article. Now, mind you, this was the opening day of Orange Bloods on the new site. So there's a lot of stuff going on. This was a conversation that we're having on a day when we're just trying to get the website launched, right? Normally we have an article come out on Wednesday. We decided to put it out on Tuesday to let everybody know there's a thing going on with Ojo. But our sources really didn't feel good with us, with the Texas Tech part of this, protection of sources and all. There was a sense that this could be causing our sourcing to fly a little too close to the sun. So we didn't get too specific. There was no one else it could be. This idea that there's a school that's come in with a mega NIL offer that wouldn't happen at Ohio State, that wouldn't happen at Michigan. They're not trying to, as we discussed yesterday on the show, they're not trying to completely disrupt everything related to their NIL situations. They're not trying to give this kid $2.5 million a year so that every other kid they're recruiting at a high level or is on their team is like, we want what that guy's getting. There was only one team. It wasn't going to be Utah. It was always going to be Texas Tech, but we kind of pussyfoot around with it. Wednesday, I did the noon show. So 49 hours ago. And I talked about Texas Tech. We talked about Texas Tech. We've done that for the better part of the last couple of days. So we've really felt like this, guys, this is going to happen. I tweeted on Wednesday at like 8 o'clock in the morning, is Texas Tech a problem all of a sudden? And it was, guys, clearly this is in reference to Ojo. It wasn't until yesterday afternoon that the rest of the recruiting world, some of whom were mocking us. I need you guys to remember some of this ish sometimes. This happens all the time. I will remind you, literally 4 years ago today, Kelvin Banks announced for Oregon. That happened. In the days leading up to it, we were reporting at Orange Bloods that it wasn't going to be Texas, that it was going to be Oregon or A&M, that those were the final two, and that Texas wasn't even on Zoom calls at the time, that Banks and Texas was third, and Oregon and A&M were 1 and 2. And the day before he made his announcement, those were the two schools that he was talking to. We were reporting that we had competitors who were like, I don't know why I did the Fire Marshal Bill thing there, but in my mind, they laugh like Fire Marshal Bill. That's one for the kids, by the way. Just YouTube search that. Trust me, it's gloriously weird. For those kids out there that don't even know who Jim Carrey is outside of the characters he does. There you go. It's a new character. They were like, Orange Bloods is full of it. They have no idea. Jeff Ketchum doesn't go to high schools. He's a terrible reporter. And it was like, well, no, you motherfuckers don't know what's going on. This is what's going on. And then Banks committed to Oregon. And then very late, they were like, oh, we don't know what happened. But yeah, Oregon. Well, fast forward 4 years later, what's happening on the 4th of July? The #1 offensive line target in the country, in the state, key Texas target. We start reporting first. Hey, man, there's a thing. There's actually a Texas Tech thing, right? And for the last couple of days, we've had competition who've been like, what the hell is Orange Bloods talking about? Here they go again. You really got to go to high schools to get good at, oh, we're just kidding. Texas Tech. Forget that we said all of that. Anyway, I haven't yet seen. Now, if this kid commits to Texas, this video will go into the archives as like big egg on my face. But like, I think we're all at a point where the industry has agreed. There's the chance that this kid this all could have been a mirage, but it would be the best I think I've seen at the collegiate level. As we wait for the announcement, and Sandman, you know what, man? Sometimes your information, for those that don't know, this is a reference. January of 2011, Mack Brown had hired Terrell Austin to be the defensive coordinator to replace Will Muschamp. And he brings Terrell Austin into Austin. Austin accepts the job. Terrell Austin is introduced to, I think it was like Keenan Robinson and Keyston Randall. And there were like 3 or 4 guys that were captains on the team that Terrell Austin was introduced to. Fellas, this is your new defensive coordinator. These are your best players. Those players communicated, hey, man, we met the new defensive coordinator. They literally told us he was the new DC. So the next day, we'd been reporting Terrell Austin's going to be the new defensive coordinator. Something happened where Terrell Austin and Mack Brown just decided they couldn't work together. But my information was so good. My information was so good that when it started popping out the next morning that it wasn't going to be Texas, I was like, no. The players were told it's Austin. And then it ended up not being Austin. It looks like we're getting people telling me that he's committed to Texas Tech. And if that is the case, it's Texas Tech. So there it is. Guys, Felix Ojo has committed to Texas Tech. We've been talking about it. There's no shock. It is one of these things that, let's talk about it on the Texas side of things. I think first and foremost is you have to acknowledge that it's a big blow for Texas. It's the second year in a row that they've missed on a 5-star offensive tackle candidate, a guy that would be your next in line as potentially starting left tackle. To me, he's Trevor Gooseby, but a little more further advanced than Gooseby was at the same stage, although Gooseby was kind of a freak in the way that he emerged over the course of like 6 months, not even 12 months. But that's the type of prototype profile he fits. Texas has not recruited at an offensive line at a high elite level since 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025, 2026. In the last 4 classes, right up until this very second. And look, John Turntine, I do expect will announce for Texas in an hour. And so like this conversation changes slightly. We have to have a big 30,000 feet up conversation on some level. It's a stinging loss. It can be explained. It really can. And I think in 2025, we have to be able to say, hey, man, don't hate the player, hate the game. I think that if Omar from The Wire or even Avon from The Wire were watching what is happening today, they would say the game's the game. And Texas Tech is getting Felix Ojo because they have come forth with a financial compensation for him that is different than everything else that everybody else is going to put on the table. And it's well within Texas Tech's right to give him that, for him to get that money. That there's a big pool of money in the revenue sharing that's, 15, 16, $17 million for Texas Tech. I'm not exactly sure what that number is, but I've discussed this on Orange Bloods Live a lot. Hey, man, one school's $300,000 defensive tackle is another school's $700,000 defensive tackle. And we can't get mad if the guy who's one or the other decides, I like being the $700,000 defensive tackle more than he wants to be the $300,000 defensive tackle. And you can't get mad at the school. You can't, God damn it, we lost another one. How did we lose one to Texas Tech? It's like, well, these things aren't equal. These things aren't equal. And sometimes they're not equal in Texas's advantage. When they got Justice Terry, what Texas Tech just did to Texas did with Georgia a year ago with Justice Terry. They provided Justice Terry with an NIL opportunity that Georgia couldn't match for reasons that were special for Georgia. Among them, they already had a couple of five-star defensive tackles committed that they weren't going to give that same level of NIL to. So suddenly, again, this shifting pyramid of doors here where if one guy gets something, what does that mean for everybody else that you've got to pay money to? Texas Tech can give Felix Ojo $1 bazillion. There's nobody else in that program right now they got to worry about giving $1 bazillion to. So it's just different. But I can't be mad at Felix Ojo because he's like, I took the biggest deal by a lot potentially. And I can't be mad at Texas, and neither can you, if they've looked at this and gone, look, we love the kid. He is our #1 target. And let's not pretend that he wasn't. Felix Ojo was walking around for months saying, Texas keeps telling me that I'm their #1 target, period, in this class. And you know who never corrected that? Texas. Not one person from Texas ever got back to us and was like, hey, man, can y'all, that's giving us some problems. Can you guys put that out there we don't want John Turntine? Like, that just never happened. He said it a bunch and nobody ever was like, he's wrong, and clarify for us. Trust me, it would happen. But I had people at Texas a couple of days ago. Look, on Wednesday, I reached out to a key source. And we were talking about it. He was like, look, are we going to pay that kid $6 million only to find out in 2028 that he's not any good? No. We should not do that. Now, look, I think this particular source was cooler on Ojo than maybe the coaches were. Coaches want him. Kyle Flood wants Felix Ojo. He's not looking at this as like, oh, well, now there's a better thing for me to do. Not thinking that. Again, I don't think there's a lot of gray area here in terms of the number of opinions, even inside the Texas football program. Not everybody feels the exact same way about all of this. Some people are probably a little crushed by it today, and others are like, yo, man, there's a better way for us to spend that money. I had somebody this week say, let's just take that money, let's go into the portal, let's get somebody who in 2026 plays right away and is a badass starter. How about, as talented as this kid is, we could use that money right away for somebody that plays next year, and if a guy's not going to play next year, we don't need to be giving him a bunch of money. And I was like, I get it. So I think Kyle Flood would love to have this guy today. I think there are people who are like, yo, let's take that $2 million and let's just put it on something in the portal. And so, it's complicated. It's a loss, but how big of a loss is it? It is. This is stuff I love talking about. If we're being completely honest, this is my kind of nerdy football recruiting conversation. We're talking money. We're talking the ability to, include the portal. I'm in it. Yes, because this is complicated. These are rhetorical questions. How much money should you allocate for a player or at a position? What's the range that you'll go to? If this were eBay, what's your limit? If this were an eBay auction, what's your limit? I'm not going above $500. If the bidding goes up to $750, you said you weren't going above $500. What do you do? I have been in that position before, and more times than not, you know what I do? I bid like $1,000 because I want it. I want my toy. I'm like the Manchester United. I'm like Jerry Jones back in the day when he could. I just gimme, let me buy. And you get what you want, but you overpay for it. There are consequences for that. Stuff that I've purchased that I've overpaid for, I've tried to sell, and it's like, oh, nobody's going to give me 50% of that? Oh, my bad. Bad investment. I've done that. I've had it go the other way, but it goes both ways. You have to be aware that, like, these are the risks. So I think there's a big Ojo hole in this class. There's nobody else that's like Ojo from a tackle standpoint. And I don't think beyond Trevor Gooseby, there's anybody. I'm not buying that Nick Brooks is the future All-American at that position. I'm not. I don't even know what Brandon Baker and Kojo are doing on the right side. I don't know what any of these guys are. I don't know what Texas has on the offensive line right now, other than I feel like Trevor Gooseby is a total badass. He's that group's best player. I kind of know what DJ Campbell is. He's a very good player. I kind of know what all the old heads are. The young guys, I don't know. But they don't come with big pedigrees. They're not guys that dominated in spring practice. Ojo's not a guy that would come in and help next year at all. At all. That's the thing. He ain't coming in. If Trevor Gooseby goes pro, Felix Ojo's not coming in next year and starting at left tackle. He's not ready for that. He needs the same 12 months or more that Trevor Gooseby got. And Trevor Gooseby came out of the other side. They went into the lab. Trevor Gooseby came out all hulked up, badass, in like 5 minutes. They put him in a microwave, as it turns out. Not everybody goes at that pace. Trevor Gooseby would be ready in 2027. We don't know if Ojo will. Ojo might be 2028. And so then you're into year 3. You've been paying him. Look, Tech's probably gone above $2 million here. So he's getting, let's just say $2 million for simple math. $2 million. First 2 years, you paid $4 million. You don't have anything to show for it. In year 3, you're paying another $2 million to find out, okay, is this guy going to be good or not? He's great, All-American? Yeah. Oh, he's gone in a year? Well, that is the high upside. Offensive linemen bust out at rates higher than almost any other position. The other thing is you get in year 3, it's like, is that guy going to play? Well, when you say play, do you mean for us? Do you mean on the 2 deep? Do you mean as what do you mean by is he going to, there just are questions. So, there you go. It's a complicated conversation. Personally, I want the guy. I want the 5-star. Those guys, although they come with massive bust rates, when they hit big at rates that other guys don't. That guy, when there's a 50% chance of a 5-star offensive lineman hitting versus not hitting being a drafted NFL football player, right? Minimum level of success for a guy who's a 5-star. They are 25 times more likely to go in the first round than a normal 4-star. Think about that. Seriously, think about what an absurd stat that is. It's not that, a 5-star offensive lineman or a 5-star in general gets drafted 50, 60% of the time. Other tier groups are around 20. So depending on the position and depending on the parameters of what we're setting, just in terms of being drafted, it's between 2.5 and 3 times more likely to be drafted if you're that dominant of a prospect, top 25, top 30 nationally. But the thing is, when those guys go head, it's not that they just get drafted. That's what happens at the other tier groups. In this tier group, when they get drafted, they go first, second day, boom, they're Kelvin Banks. I was like, Texas hasn't had a 5-star offensive lineman in a decade or plus since the last guy would have been, oh my God, was it Mason Walters before it was? I'm trying to remember. Jesus. Who have I forgotten? Malcolm Brown would be defensive tackle. Was it Mason Walters? Anyway, every once in a while, you ever have an encyclopedia in your brain and then you ask yourself a question that is like the easiest question you've ever asked yourself, and then you're dumbfounded for just a second? I'm going to be really upset later that stumped me. That's so easy. I'm getting old. It's 4th of July. I have fireworks going off in my brain. I think Felix Ojo is a guy for me that you pray. Trevor Goosby was like 270. He comes in, he's 315 after a year, and he could have played last year. We saw it. He could have been a starter as a redshirt freshman, and by the end of the year, he'd have been all SEC. He could have been just as good as Cam Williams if he'd played the entire year. And then we'd really be talking about him this year as an All-American, I think, but knowing he's got 1 year left. And I don't know that we completely know that about Goosby. We'll see. We'll see how far. He's still a guy that's only played a couple of games, really. But you're hoping that that's who Ojo is, that Ojo can come in one off season, just get ripped, slap on 20, 25, 30 pounds. Goosby threw on 45. And then they go into the spring or into the summer, and it's like, holy hell, look at Felix. That dude's been in the weight room. His core is stronger. His lower half is everything's stronger. He's ready to play. Sometimes those guys take a couple of years ago. I'm reminded Jonathan Scott wasn't ready-made as a redshirt freshman. Justin Blaylock built differently, but was. These guys are all on different schedules. And I think the thing about Felix Ojo is there's a real interesting conversation to be had about, he's worth more to Tech than he is to Texas. Point blank. He is. I cannot tell Texas Tech that they're making a mistake by giving him whatever they're giving him in terms of revenue share percentage, money, whatever the thing is. I cannot say that they are. It's a risk. I get why they would. It's a big deal. He's the #1 prospect in the state of Texas. It's a huge show of ambition if you're Texas Tech. But he doesn't mean that to Texas. Because Texas can't even, with definitiveness, say that guy's our starting tackle in 2027. They think he might be. And they think he could be a first-round draft pick at that. But they don't know. What Texas Tech knows is that he's more valuable to Tech than he is to Texas. And thus, they treated him as such, and thus he treated them as such, and thus here we are. And I think the real conversation with Texas thus becomes, what now? What is the plan for what's at tackle really beyond 2025? Because if Goosby's as good as I think he might be, he might just play this next season and be gone. It's not out of the realm of possibilities. It's not what I think the family and what Goosby is telling people that, they're being more cautious, but they don't know. It's possible. Just like with Arch, it's possible. Somebody was telling me earlier today that, I don't know, it's waltercamp.com or somebody was projecting Arch Manning to be the #1 pick of the 2026 NFL draft. It was like, well, yeah, we're going to see a lot of that. We're going to see a lot of that. If Arch has a good season, which we all think he will have to make a decision. And it will be the biggest decision in college football. It will be A1 on First Take. What is Arch going to do? Like, these things happen. Like, we can't be naive and be like, he said what he thought. But things change. So if you're Texas, I don't know. Like, there's a worst case scenario. They have got to find a left tackle. Nick Brooks right now would appear to be the only real candidate they have. And we don't even know really how good is he. I don't know. He's not so good that they're putting his ass on the field as one of the best 5 players on the team right now. Know that. Whenever people get, Nick Brooks, that guy should have been this, that guy should have been that. What he's not yet is so good that some of these dudes that we know aren't that good, aren't getting pushed off the field. It wasn't like they put Nick Brooks in at left tackle. Why? Because he's already better than Neto. Oh, makes sense. He's playing this. He's playing that. They got to play in multiple positions. They're trying to get the best 5 on the field. We're not at a point with Nick Brooks where he's absolutely one of the best 5. because this offensive line is not so good that one of its best 5 needs to be the backup somewhere. It's not. Don't. We know. Don't do the thing where we're like, man, Neto can't even get on the field, and Cole Hudson's the worst rated offensive lineman in the program, and that's the 3rd year in a row that that's happened, and they're plus players. We have to be a little more intellectually honest than to just flip the switch, right? We have to. We have to be able to say losing Felix Jones stings. We have to be able to talk about why it stings, but we also have to be able to rationalize like, hey, man, sometimes these things happen. Should I end up in the ER later tonight because I got drunk because Felix Ojo went to Texas Tech and I decided to blow off my hand? No. But I think Felix Ojo was the answer to what I'm talking about is, what are they going to do about this? And now that Ojo is committed elsewhere and Texas won't give up, and we'll see what happens. But I don't think they're not going to go that far from an NIL, from a revenue share percentage. They're not going to match. If it comes, they will not. It's too much. It's too much. Too risky for that amount for Texas. Hell, man, if Houston wanted to give Keyshawn Henderson $10 million a year, I would understand them doing it. Way too much for Texas. Houston, if you think that guy could be the Vince Young of your program, yeah, he's worth $10 million a year. Arch is worth that. It's a matter of like, would anybody dare give them that huge of a chunk? We'll just give it all to you. All of the revenue sharing money, it's yours. We will eventually see that. I'm convinced of it, but we're not there yet. Nobody wants to get too crazy and be seen as, but somebody will do it. It's going to happen. So while we wait for John Turntine, let me go back. Let me just make sure that I haven't, let me see what I've super chats. Here's one. Duval Dan says, in your opinion, at what point would worry be justified? I mean, Duval, I think Texas is going to get John Turntine in an hour. They got Richard Wesley less than 2 weeks ago. They have Dia Bell, who you wouldn't trade for any other. This class is going to be fine. I think that what I would say, Duval, is like, what we have to acknowledge is that in real time, this is happening today, 1:33 p.m. Central Time. We are learning the lived experiences of what we will ultimately decide, like how all these things are decided in the future. Because I've got Texas sources that are like, the money that people are spending in recruiting is going to cost them dearly eventually. They're spending money without thinking, how am I going to keep my best players? I've had people say, look, okay, pay Felix Ojo that. And then we're taking somebody's Murad Watson in the offseason. They're going to take schools that have handled their money. This is at least what I'm hearing is the plan. Will they execute it? I think they will. Do we know in July that they definitively will? Like, no. Like, this is, again, it's in real time. We're in the belly of the beast. Who knows what all this looks like digested? I think, look, I laid it out earlier in the week as simple as this. And I think this is where everybody's head needs to be. For the last 3 years, and you know what? I had a source 2 days ago who was about to tell me something. And he goes, man, I got a quote for you. He said, but if I give you this quote, someone will know where you got this from. So he didn't tell me. And then I said something. I was like one of those, like, you know, I'm replying and he's replying and like ping ping kind of a thing. Like my message, before I could read his message, I sent my message. And he read my message. And I think I touched on something that he was going to give me some sort of information. So what was I touching on? What did I say? I'll tell you what. I'll pull it up. Give me a second. I'll read it to you verbatim. Okay? Where the hell is it? It takes me a second. I'm doing this on the fly. Plus, I'm old now. You get to be 49 years old. Okay, I found the source. I hope there's no reflection. Like, what did I say? Hold on. Okay. Here's what I said that he agreed with. And it was, I said, we were talking about Ojo. And I said, if they can't play, we're just talking about the idea of the way modern recruiting works. And I talk about this with Texas fans all the time. I will nitpick this staff. And look, I'll give you an example. I think the kid yesterday might be a really good example of this. They get a commitment from Kosi Akpala, who I'm a big fan of. Nobody has that kid rated higher than I do. I have him rated 20th in the state. I have him as a mid 4-star. I don't have him as a super blue chip, but in terms of where he's at inside the state rankings, nobody else has him higher. So I feel like I can critically talk about him and acknowledge I literally like him more than anybody. I think he might need 2 full off seasons. I know, how freaky. 2 off seasons, right? Jesus, the expectations that we have for college football players now and how soon they have to be ready to play is unprecedentedly daunting. Oh, if you're not playing right away, you're going to transfer. That's what it's turned into. So my problem with a guy like Akpala is that the level to get on the field at Texas is so high. They're literally trying to win a national championship. They're not trying to win 9 games. They're not trying to win 10 games. They're not trying to win 11 games. They're not even trying to win 12 games. They're not trying to get to the playoffs. That's not the goal. Texas's goal. And so their goal already, what I've just said, that sounds like goals for most programs. Texas's goal as a program right now is when we play Georgia or Ohio State, is who we have on the field good enough to beat their ass. That's the mission statement for Texas. So every player that comes into the program now, it's not can they be a good player? Can they be an NFL player? Should we take them? Which is a subjective, nebulous question, right? How long until they're good enough to beat Georgia and Ohio State? And what's that level? I mean, if I ask you guys, take the general Ohio State player or Georgia, any position on the field, I don't care. How good is that player? Just the consensus median player. Oh, he's a year away from the NFL. Oh, okay. And the average is like 3rd round draft pick. That's the median. Okay. So the median level player, not the best. The median level is that guy's an NFL player, might be 2nd or 3rd round pick. Maybe 3rd round. Maybe 4th round. Maybe he's early. Okay. Fair enough. That's the bar. How long will it take Kosi Akpala to be ready to be at that level? And it's like, well, maybe into his 3rd season. And the problem is they don't stick around for 3 seasons. One of the things that Texas and Georgia and Ohio State are going to have to really continue to kind of adjust to in this new world of NIL is you can't just take everybody. So if they can't play right away, they'll leave before they eventually get on the field is a new golden rule in college football. We don't talk about it a whole lot. Nobody's patient. Arch Manning is. That's about it. Arch is like, I'm good. Quinn, take your time. I'm good. No, go ahead. Do a Dr. Pepper commercial where you talk about how there's no need for a backup. I'm good. I'm just chilling. It never happens. It happened with Arch. I still can't believe it happened, but it happened. By the way, Duval Den, let me take that down. Let me see. Are there any other super chats? By the way, we're probably going to go long today. We'll stick around and wait for Turntine. Turntine I love, by the way. By the way, I see you, Barbs. Barbs for $10 said he picked Tech. Good luck to him. So where is the disconnect catch? Flood not him, or do we need a better closer? Austin not doing it for the recruits. Barbs, I think I laid this out, man. I feel like that's what I've been doing. I've been answering that question. There's a lot to it. All right, Quentin Hope. Hold on. We got stuff. I hate when I asked. Here we go. Quentin Hope dropped $19.99. Quentin, I'm looking. Here we go. He said, Catch, I miss your recruiting stories, the flashbacks, so let's do it. Big money to give us the behind-the-scenes stories of the craziest recruitment story you have of how a recruit got to Texas. I'm trying to think of one that maybe I haven't told before. I've told this one before. This one breaks a lot of ethos because I was young. When I was younger, when I got into this business, I was like 20, and all these kids were kind of in my age group, especially the guys that played at Texas. I would see them out socially in ways. I can remember being still in college at Texas, and I would see Chris Sims out at a bar. And Sims knew I was in the media, and I was like boys with Rod Babers and a couple other guys. So I would see them out, and we would chit chat, and things were cool. But like I always tried to keep a distance if I didn't know guys, and I could tell they were a little bit like they just didn't know. And Chris Sims would give me the side eye all the time. Well, back at that age, when I was still at an age where literally I would see these guys out at bars, and that has been a long time since that has been the case. Cedric Griffin was the number one. I had him ranked as the number one DB prospect in the state for the class of 2000. And he didn't have any real early scholarship offers, but then I gave him that ranking and started reporting on him and started getting more offers. And Cedric had called me up and said, he's like, I really want to go to Texas. Like, Texas is where I want to go. And at the time, I wasn't even running a Texas website. I was running LoneStarRecruiting.com. And I was like, man, I was talking about the Texas coaching staff with him. And I said, I agree, this was out of line. In retrospect, you're 20 years old. You don't know what the fuck you're doing sometimes. Afterwards, it was like, oh, I crossed a line. Like, you don't do that anymore. But like, I have to admit, there were times when I was a young reporter when I made mistakes. I told Cedric Griffin, if you want a Texas scholarship, you probably need to like go down there with your entire family, walk up to the front door and tell them that you want to go to Texas, and like take your highlight tape with you and just walk in. And I'll be damned, Cedric Griffin did that shit the next day. Cedric got in a car with his mom and his sister. And I ended up meeting them at the Mr. Gaddy's on MLK. You guys that are long-term Longhorns will know about the Gaddy's that used to be next to the Wendy's. I don't even know what it is now, but it used to be Mr. Gaddy's. And dude showed up at like 9 o'clock in the morning, early. And he called and told me, hey, man, we're in Austin. What do you mean you're in? I came down here to tell them that I want to be a Longhorn. And Cedric Griffin showed up, told the coaching staff who he was, and that he was ready to commit to Texas right then and there. And he did. And that is how it happened. And then he called me up and was like, yo, I committed to Texas. And I was like, oh, can I get an interview? And he was like, yeah, meet me at the Mr. Gaddy's. And then I met Cedric Griffin at the Mr. Gaddy's and his mom and his sister. And yeah, that happened. That was a real story. Believe me, as soon as he called me, I was like, "Oh my God, what have I done?" It is like it's like the Back to the Future thing. It's like I felt like Marty letting his dad know that, like, I don't know. Yeah, but that happened once. That's Cedric Griffin. It's not like that. Nothing like that ever happened again, because trust me, like as soon as that happened, that was 25 years ago, maybe. God, was that 99? He would have been class of 2000. So spring of 99. It was just a lifetime ago. Believe me, but that did happen. Yeah. Jay Lee for $5 says, so basically revenue sharing just helps small schools poach a few big recruits each cycle and piss off a big school like us. Ojo wouldn't have gone to Tech. I mean, Jay Lee, this is going to happen every year. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm okay with it, honestly. This is a way for those schools to punch back in ways they are never able to punch. I'm not hating on Texas Tech for that. Like, again, this is the kind of thing that we just have to get used to. Yes, basically, everybody's got to get used. This will happen elsewhere. I mentioned it yesterday. Ohio State will lose a kid to Cincinnati at some point because Cincinnati was like, we'll give you $5 million. And Ohio State's like, we can't do that. Not that we couldn't, we can't. We can, but we can't. We could, but we can't. It's not a question of could. It's if you could, if you can and did, what next? And there are poison pills. And yeah, man, I think Texas Tech came up with a poison pill that if Texas is going to pay that much for a player, that guy better be a first-team All-American now. Not in 2027 or 2028, but now. Patrick for $5 says, teams like Tech don't realize how this hamstrings them in the future. Players of calibers, Ojo's caliber, will demand similar compensation. Think softball. Patrick, I don't think it's an Ojo. Look, I think Tech can get away with doing an Ojo or a couple of Ojos. Their problem is if they get more than a few, they actually were to get good, they will have stretched themselves out too far. What happens when players that don't come in on big salaries turn into big players and suddenly are worth big money, and you don't have the revenue sharing available to pay them, and you don't have the ability to get things through Delot, through corporate partnerships and things like that. Now, look, I've had people say, you don't think they'll figure it out? They'll figure it out. And maybe they're right. I can tell you that Texas people have doubts. And if they end up being wrong, we'll be able to look back and go, remember when the Ojo thing happened, what the general vibe was? They thought it would be like this. It turned out like that. They were wrong. Or we'll look back at it, and we've done this in the past. Happens every year. There's something that's a general thought at one point in the year, and then 4 or 5 months later, we go, hey, are they still acting that way? No. Michael Fasusi is a good example. By the time Michael Fasusi made his decision last year, I had people in the Texas program who were telling me, can we justify paying him that much money? Maybe not. And then by the time they realized that Cam Williams was going to go pro and Brandon Baker might not be what they hoped he would be, they had a different tune. They offered him big money. Like, it changes. These things are fluid. People like to get mad at me because I use the word fluid. I'll say things are fluid, but they are. They are. And this, probably the definition, I think I have, people I talk to say, they think that, oh my God, I just lost my train of thought. I'm just going to move on. You know what it was? I started reading David Keith Williams talking about Okpala, and I was thinking about the David Keith Williams rankings. He's right. Okpala, high up the list. I'm looking. I don't see any more super chats. I'm working through. I apologize. I'm all caught up. Darius says that Ojo is scared of SEC defensive end. He got his ass handed to him in Indianapolis by some future SEC Big Ten dogs. He's running to be in the Big 12. Who the hell got Darius? Darius, don't do that. Don't do that. There's just no need. Was he scared or did he just take the best deal? And I don't know, man. I get icky talking about guys like that. This is so obvious about NIL opportunities or revenue sharing opportunities. And I don't know, man. If Darius, if you told me, look, I'm not going to be in the Orange Bloods chat anymore because I've got offered legitimate money to go be in the chat of some other show. And I was like, well, I can't afford to give you, I can't do it. I can't give you whatever that amount is. I can't at that point then go, that's some bullshit that Darius left. I don't get it. Darius is just scared. Darius is scared to be on Orange Bloods. That's what they say about Darius. His whole family's scared of chickens. That's what they say. Darius comes in and says, bark, bark, bark. No, it'd be like, well, did Darius prefer Orange Bloods? I think he did. He was here. It's where he wanted to be. I think so. And someone else offered him money? Yeah. And you didn't? Yeah. So is it possibly about the money? And that's not personal? It's not about fear. It's not about he's a dick. It's not about, couldn't it just be like he took the best opportunity? Yeah, maybe. Okay. Like that's Darius. That's we have to be able to do this without slamming guys. Because I just don't know in what other way of life we would treat someone this way. Hey, did you hear about Bob, the next door neighbor? No. What happened? Hey, they just gave him a $250,000 a year job at Apple. It's the opportunity of a lifetime. That's money that will change. He can be able to put his kids in private school and everything. You know what we don't do when Bill gets the dream offer from Apple? What about Dell? He's been at Dell for 10 years. Oh, well, yeah. But Dell's only paying him like a hundo a year. And he's going to make $250 at Apple. That's some bullshit. Where's the loyalty? He's afraid. I always said this about Bill. He's afraid of Michael Dell. He's afraid of Michael Dell. He's afraid of the desktops. He's afraid of all that elite decision-making. No, man. We go over to Bill. We give that dude a hug. We throw him a party. Congratulations, Bill. We don't slander him in the name of our feelings being hurt. People from Dell don't walk around going, there's some bullshit happened with Bill. What happened? Took that higher paying job at a better company. Hell, we don't even get mad at him. Took that higher paying job at a company that sucks. Oh, the company sucks? Yeah. Well, why'd he go? Just paying him a whole bunch of money. Oh, fair enough. I mean, because the other thing is this. Texas Tech has put out as many NFL offensive tackles in the last 15 years as Texas. Texas put out one first-round draft pick, Kelvin Banks. That just happened. Beyond that, Connor Williams, Sam Cosmi, Texas has done it a few times in the last half decade. But if we want to take it back 15 years, you can talk about Kyle Flood's history, but you can't talk about the Texas football program and be like, oh, in the entirety of these kids' lives, Texas has been cranking out NFL offensive linemen in a way that should make Texas Tech blush. They shouldn't even know. It's not like that. We know that. Now, is the best conference the SEC? Yeah. Is that the best place for linemen to be? Yeah. From a football competitive standpoint, is that where he should be? Yeah. Could he get there somewhere else? Yeah. Could he get there somewhere else by making a whole hell of a lot more money? Yeah. All right. What are we talking about? What are we talking about? Because the other thing we all have to remember with all these guys is they think they're the exception. So if you were to tell Felix Ojo, hey, man, they're all Han Solo is basically it. If you are telling them, hey, you're only about a 33% chance of making it to the NFL based on the data, those kids don't think, whoa, 33. That means there's a 67% chance that I won't. So, geez, maybe my major should matter. Maybe I should. There's almost 70% chance that I won't make it to the NFL. I should focus on my academics then, shouldn't I? That is not what happens. These kids don't hear the math. You know what they say? Don't tell me the math. I'm the one. So you can't tell Felix Ojo, hey, playing in the Big 12, that's not a place where big-time guys go to develop and get to the NFL. You know what he's going to say? That's because big-time guys like me don't go there. But now I'm going to go there. And you know what? Now I'll be the first. Big-time guys go to Texas Tech, make it to the league, get paid a bunch of money. I'm the example. That's what he'll think. By the way, I don't know why I just sounded like Jerry Seinfeld there for a second. That's what they'll think. It's very Seinfeldish. And apologies, it was actually it sounded Seinfeldish in my head, but who knows? Maybe I did that a second time, and you guys are like, that's more George than Jerry. Cinco de Mayor for $4.99 says, catch, is this in part because Texas needs to account for the funds required to protect their current roster that might be coming back? Oh, yeah. Of course. On its roster right now, Texas has 20 former consensus super blue chips. Now, there'll be OU fans and Aggies who are like, catch, you just made up that term. It's not a thing. A super blue chip, for me, is a guy that's either a 5-star or a high 4-star. What's notable about those things is, A, they make the NFL, and then when they make the NFL, they get drafted in higher rounds exponentially than anybody else. That's why they matter. But they also cost the most. They're the guys that cost like $1 million. Texas has 20 of those guys on its roster. Georgia has 25. Ohio State has 22. Alabama has 20. Oregon has 18. Those 5 programs separate from everybody else, almost by double the numbers. Very quickly, you get down to everybody's got them doubled up. For instance, Oklahoma is 12th in the country. They've got 9. Texas has more than twice as many elite level prospects. Well, what does that mean? It means money currently committed on the roster to these types of players. Texas has 20 million. Doesn't matter how it all gets paid out, who's cutting the check, how much is revenue sharing. On the average, you can just 20 million. Texas Tech has 2 of those guys on its roster right now. A transfer from Stanford and Micah Hudson. They've got 2. So, yeah, it's yes. And I think there are people at Texas right now because they've lived through this. They know what it's like at the end of a season when everybody knows that there's a bunch of money available. What a free-for-all it looked for. They had more than 40 to 50 player interviews when the season ended after the loss of Ohio State. And new NIL deals were on the table for all of those guys. And everybody except for Amari Niblack got taken care of. Think about how incredible that is. But that didn't get taken care of until January. So, yeah, they would tell you that stuff's really expensive, player retention, and you better make sure you save some. And I think they'll point to USC. I think they'd point to LSU. I think they'll point to maybe Texas Tech, although I don't think this one situation justifies. I think this is a one-off. We'll see if maybe they do. Again, they could just say, what would it mean for us to have the number 1 prospect in the state of Texas? What is that? That is worth that much money in just headlines alone. What that does. Is it worth it for what you spend? And we'll find out. And maybe Texas Tech will learn the hard way. Again, Felix Ojo is a guinea pig here. He's a guinea pig in a lot of ways. He's Texas Tech's $6, $7, $8, $9 million guinea pig. If he ends up hitting and hits his ceiling as a player, they will have stolen a deal. If he misses, he's a cautionary tale. Lane A for $20. Knowing what committed players at other schools is paid in November will help better manage the NIL. No doubt about it. And look, Lane, it is one of the reasons why Texas doesn't like to reveal their NIL cards in July. Think about Michael Fasusi when he made his decision in early August last year. Texas didn't go in with what they went in with in November and December. They did not go in with when he made his decision because they just didn't feel like it mattered. Hey, if it's going to matter us offering 1.5 in November or in August, it'll matter in November. That's the way they felt. If it mattered then, it'll matter then. The time doesn't mean that the money stops mattering. So if they think there's a number with Felix Ojo that would change the dynamics, they know what it is, and they sure as hell wouldn't put it on the table now. They know what Tech's number is. If they want to beat it, they can beat it. They also now will sit back and go, is this real? This is the other element of the conversation that I think Texas feels like some of these guys are going to learn the hard way. They get told something now. Is it in writing? Is it in contract yet? When's that going to happen? What does the fine print say? Because some of these schools are telling guys you're going to get this amount of money, and they're not going to come through in December. The word default was used. There will be schools who default on their commitments because of the reasons that we outlined. The revenue sharing money will be gone. They won't have the partnerships on the NIL side of things to funnel their kids through. We talked about that big announcement this week from Texas with Learfield about creating this marketing agency fully designed to do nothing but present a marketing firm to create NIL deals with corporate partners that allow Texas to cheat the system a little bit. I mean, they won't use those words, but that's what it is. Hey, we can't mom and pop it, just pay kids. You know, we can't have a car dealership just give a kid $1 million if that's something that we wanted to try. Got to be a little bit more legit, or a lot will deny it, and then we can't live with that. So I think they'll feel like they're behind in those ways. So we'll see. But Lane, it's a great question. I want to stop for a second. We have hit the 2:00 hour. Felix Ojo, that happened. Let's turn to John Turntine a little bit, because John Turntine, I fully expect to be a Texas Longhorn. Hold on. I'll tell you what. I need to just send a message to Sukamel. What I haven't done today, two things. One, I haven't mentioned that this show is brought to you by the amazing people at Texas Card House, Hijack Poker, real card games, real poker for real money against real people online, like the old days. You can download it on your phone. You can play it on your computer. I play it on my desktop all the time. I have this big ass screen. I'll have it over here on my right, and I just play poker over here, do everything else over here. Sometimes while I'm on the show for cash, because I'm sick and demented that way in terms of like, oh yeah, I was doing a show and I just was playing cards at the same time. Sorry about that, Chad. But yeah, no, Hijack Poker is the best. Now, the other thing that I want to do that I haven't done is just one more thing, and that is just a little AV consultation on the 4th of July, because you need a big-ass TV.
Hi, everyone. This is Tom McKay, owner of Audiovisual Consultations. We've been serving and assisting customers in the Texas area
I think I got this by now, old man. This is Camilla McKay, Audiovisual's social media and website manager. Our company has been helping you sit back and relax for the last 37 years. We come to you, and we're the kind of workers you want in your home. We give you all the advice at a great price, and we do a lot more than just audiovisual systems. We have employees capable of performing services like electrical contracting, heated floors, motorized shades. Am I forgetting anything, old man?
Yeah, we do surveillance systems, controlled lighting systems, and landscape lighting, computer networks, multi-room audio systems, and of course, we install some really cool theaters.
I had a feeling you were going to say that last one.
Now, am I forgetting anything?
Only this. Remember to hug your kids, laugh with strangers, and make love to whoever the hell you want.
So give us a call at 512-255-8678.
Or visit us online at avconsultations.com.
That's 512-255-8678.
Thank you to the guys over at AB Consultations. We're counting down the minutes until John Turntine is just a fascinating prospect for me. And he's so good. He is he is the best offensive lineman in the state of Texas. And you're like, well, who's John Turntine? He's, I have him ranked as the number 5 player in the state of Texas. On3 has him as the number 9 player in the state of Texas. That's as bad as it gets. The On3 industry ranking is number 4. Rivals has him at number 5. ESPN has him at number 4 or number 5 in the state. Like, he's a consensus top 5 prospect. On the field, he is an ass-kicking son of a gun. He's so good in space. So good in space. You can pull him. You can put him in the screen game. He's so athletic. And his ability to get on guys in space and just devastatingly blow them up it's Dan Neal-ish. His ability in the power run game, like, he's phenomenal. But he showed up this offseason at offseason events at 6'3", like 265, 267 in the 260s. It is, if we're talking about a tackle prospect, it is the kind of thing that's like, what the hell that is not an NFL tackle. Even if he beats up to 300, you're going to get into a point where, he's not long enough. How they didn't think Kelvin Banks was long enough. And that guy's a certifiable badass. And still NFL teams are like, oh, I don't know. He might not be. Although the Saints were like, no, we think he is. We'll take him. Thank you very much. And he's just our left tackle for the next decade. This guy, to me, though, if you frame him, if you tell me, look, he doesn't even play tackle. Or if you tell me he's a little bit like Justin Blaylock, he's got some tackle versatility. Yeah, his NFL position's inside, but he can play 5 positions, which is what we would have done with Justin Blaylock once upon a time, a couple decades ago. These guys don't grow on trees. Then I would say, oh, well, if you're telling me that he's an inside guy, he's a guard or a tackle, he might be the best interior guy that I think I've seen since Justin Blaylock. That he is some sort of hybrid between whatever Justin Blaylock was and whatever Dan Neal was, which is incredibly high praise. The thing is, those two guys are from a bygone era, right? Justin Blaylock, class of 2002. Dan Neal, class of 92, 93, I forget. Dan's final season was 97, 96, 95, 94. So class of 93? I think that's right. Or am I forgetting that? Was Dan 96 and he was a senior on? Forgive me. The years go by. These two guys are from decades ago. And so I'm taking these former legends, combining them together and making this super football playing baby, but that baby's undersized. And Turntine's unique. As a football player, he's a 5-star. As a physical prospect, he's a 3-star. So, I don't know. He's a home run. You take him. And the thing is, I think in a couple of years, he gains the weight. He gets the strength. You've got a potential high-level best guard, best center in the history of your program on your hands. I think that's his upside. I think his upside is he could be this generation's Dan Neal. It's been a while. Dan Neal last played in the 90s for the Longhorns. It's time. And I don't think there's been anybody quite like that in a long time. That's who I think John Turntine can be. He's been talked about as a tackle. Could he play tackle? Justin Blaylock did at 6'3" on a national championship team. Never really moved inside. He was just a tackle in college. Tackles are more valuable than guards. I think Turntine could. I just don't know that Turntine is, the bar at Texas, Ohio State, and Georgia is if you're going to play tackle. Presumably it's like, oh, that guy's got to be first or second day pick kind of good. And I don't know as a physical specimen if he's that good. But Justin Blaylock was only a second-round player in the NFL. 6-year starter in the NFL. But as an interior guy, that was his value. We know as a college player, much better than that. But, typically speaking, it doesn't always work out that way. More times than not, you don't get special players that, it's rare that the special players have these physical ticks that you're like, oh, well, they weren't special physically. They just were kind of 1 in a million guys. And in a weird way, Justin Blaylock, I wouldn't call him 1 in a million, but man, he might be 1 in 700,000. We've not seen him or Dan Neals of the world, just like we haven't seen Leonard Davis's of the world. Those guys don't grow on trees. Like the decades go by. It's one of the weird things about Felix Ojo is that he's a guy that I think there's a comparison. You can look at him right now and go, oh, that guy's Trevor Goosby. And it makes a ton of sense. And I think that, it's hard to do that with a lot of guys. Like, it's hard for me to do that with Turntine. It's so interesting with Ojo that it just feels like there's such an obvious comparison. Because I think the one thing about Ojo is if there wasn't I don't think if Trevor Goosby was hitting right now in real time the way that he is, I wonder if Ojo would be rated as high as he is. Because Ojo is a guy that needs multiple years of development. You would have thought the same thing about Goosby, and his accelerated process makes him a bit of a freak. But I think he's the example that we're judging Ojo by, because that is Ojo's upside. What have I said about Goosby? I think he's going to end up drafted higher than Banks. That doesn't mean I think he's going to be a better player than Banks. I think he's got more of what the NFL just covets from a prototype size standpoint. By the way, I'm waiting right now. We're waiting. Jason Sukamel. I didn't even notice. Thank God you sent me the message joining me here on Orange Bloods Live. Jason, we're waiting for the announcement from John Turntine.
Yeah, me too. He's supposed to stream it on his Instagram page. He said he's going to go live, but I keep refreshing, catch nothing yet. But it should be any minute.
Well, we've been talking about Felix Jones and really
Felix Ojo. Yeah.
I did it again. I called him the former Arkansas running back.
You did. You can call him whatever you want at this point, right?
No, I know. It's not like Texas fans are going to get mad because I called him a Razorback running back that played for the Cowboys. We've been talking about Felix Ojo. It's just a unique situation, one that someone asked in the chat. So, like, every year there may be a super prospect that a program like Texas Tech or Houston or somebody just decides that they're going to potentially spend more money than a Texas or a Georgia or an Ohio State would feel comfortable spending for a million different reasons. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. That if Houston decides that Keyshawn Henderson's worth $5 million, I don't know that I can tell a program like Houston, who has nobody else on their roster, that they've got to worry about in such a way that they really need to concern themselves with that. Just like Texas has rich people problems, and I think those problems don't exist in other programs. And it's rare that in recruiting, it gives a Texas Tech an advantage over a Texas. But we now live in a brand new world where, you know what? There may occasionally be once a year or two these situations that pop up that Texas's wallet can't just control because it wants to.
Well, you understand it. I'm going to adjust my volume here. I'm sorry. You understand it a bit more when you're talking a quarterback. Those guys can be program changers, right? If you get the right quarterback. Can a franchise left tackle elevate your program to new levels? I guess can't hurt. But, if Texas Tech, listen, I had, you and I have been digging around on this story since Tuesday. And I had someone tell me like, hey, if Texas Tech is offering the kind of money that I was hearing and people in Austin were hearing, they're like, there's nothing we can do about that because we're just not going to mess with that. So if that's going to happen once or twice a year, Texas will be like, hey, more power to you. Let's see how it works out. But that's not how Texas is going to build its roster. I wonder, I'm sure you've probably seen it. I know you've been on your show, but it's a 5.1 guaranteed contract, right? 5.1 million for 3 years. And that's coming out of that, 20.5 mil. Like, that's
did that get announced? I have not seen that.
Yeah, it's announced. Yeah. His agent announced it, put it out to different media outlets. But yeah, so it's officially 5.1 over 3 years, fully guaranteed. So yeah, and I'm like, how do you walk into that locker room and be like, oh, hey, like I'm making, what is that, 1.7 mil a year? Like, oh, you're making what, 50K? Oh, cool. Like, good to meet you.
That is what Texas, I've heard, is paying Anthony Hill and Colin Simmons this season.
Well, those dudes have earned it. You kind of
I know. I'm
Yeah.
giving you perspective of like how Texas would feel about that volume of money and how they've currently invested money versus.
That's an enormous amount of pressure on Felix, right? I mean, dude, you better be good or they're going to hate your ass in that locker room. So,
well, I don't think it's that. I really don't. I don't think these. We only have the Texas program that you and I can lean on from an experience standpoint so far. I'll be honest. We could talk to Billy Lucci and he could say, oh, that 2022 class, NIL, just never. They may say that it's different in that it's been a different experience in that locker room. Mm-hmm. I have never once got a sense that any of the Texas players are thirst trapping after someone else's deal. Now they all think they should get money, but I haven't heard any. And there are guys that are like Brandon Baker. Mm-hmm. I had somebody last year was like, hey, my kid's better than Brandon Baker. He just is. And like, why is my kid not making the money that Brandon Baker's making? We can see the money that he's making. We know my kid's seen his contract. And it's like, well, because Brandon Baker was a big time prospect and your kid wasn't. So he has leverage. You don't. Your kid's not even a starter yet. What are we talking about? Like, just because he's higher than him on a depth chart doesn't mean that they then turn around and think that he's and they're learning. Everybody's learning. But it's not that they don't want that kid to have his money, typically. These questions will get asked. But it's about how does my guy or how do I get mine? I think it's a public thing. Because I think
that, but you might see those questions more now that there's a quote unquote salary cap, if you want to call it that, because there's only so much money to go around now.
That's the thing. Because if in a year from now he gets hurt, or in a year from now he's not flipped the line, the pressure. Look, one of the reasons I love Felix Ojo. But when the thing happened last week at Rivals, my reaction was like, I'm not completely shocked. This is not a guy. This is a guy that I think has first round upside, hence 5-star ranking from me. But this is not a guy that it would shock me if he needed 2 full off seasons.
He's not Michael Fasusi.
No, not physically, not at all. In fact, it's the one thing that I just constantly said about the two is that Fasusi's I don't think Fasusi's physical upside is as high as Felix Ojo's. But Ojo's hitting his is not guaranteed, whereas Fasusi shows up looking like $1 million. Ojo has to do what Trevor Gooseby did. Trevor Gooseby looks like $10 million. He didn't the day that he showed up. It will take work that is non-guaranteed, and it's non-guaranteed to happen at the pace that it happened with Gooseby, who weirdly did it freakishly in like 5 minutes. You might get to year 3, and that full $5.1 million will have been paid out. And you might not know whether he's good enough to be a starter at your school. And if Texas Tech isn't able to acquire talent because that money has been spent and can't get off the books, I'm a Cowboys fan. Believe me. I know about dead money. I do. I've seen it. Hey, we got no money to spend in the salary cap and we've got no draft picks. Welcome to being a Cowboys fan. This is, if it goes wrong, he'll be a cautionary tale. He will be a verb in the future that we say, careful, because, and Lane A for $10 asked the super chat, is Turntine a potential day one starter in 2026? Lane, he's 6'3", 260 something right now.
Yeah, he'd have to build back up pretty quickly for that.
He's an ass-kicking football player. They're very far and few between that show up like Kelvin Banks day one. And it's like, put me in the offensive line, coach. I'm ready to play in the SEC. You have to assume they all these offensive linemen need redshirt years.
Well, and honestly, Kelvin probably, he played really well as a freshman, obviously, but most scenarios, he probably wouldn't have started as a freshman because they kind of put him out there like, hey, we don't have anybody else. Let's put this freshman out there. And then he exceeded expectations. But it was almost a lack of options when Kelvin started. So a guy like Turntine is going to come in. I mean, Texas has, they're having to replace a lot of guys, but they have some talent and experience there. So I don't think Laney's physically ready, and I don't think you need to force the issue like you kind of did with Kelvin. I mean, it worked out wonderfully. Nobody's complaining, obviously, but it was almost putting him in there by necessity to some degree with Kelvin as well. So, and Turntine's behind schedule, by the way. It's 2:20, and I'm not seeing anything on his Instagram feed. So.
By the way, Jason, you'll love this. I accidentally hit the wrong button in the admin. I need to take a certain instant analysis story down. I meant to post a Felix Ojo reaction story. And,
I thought I did the same thing that you did earlier, like we're giving away stuff.
So I'm fixing it.
Pre-written, and I put mine in there, and I put save draft, and for people watching,
I meant to post a Felix Jones / Ojo reaction story, and instead I've done something completely wrong and asked backwards, and so I'm fixing it.
Delete that as quickly as you can. But listen, I mean, the Ojo thing, I get it. It's so funny. Like I put last night, I think it was, I put on the message board. I was like, hey, a couple thoughts on the Felix Ojo thing. I was like, yeah, we're here in Texas Tech, blah, blah, blah. I said, hey, but I'm also hearing things look really, really good with John Turntine, like really, really good. And all anybody wanted to talk about was the Ojo thing. The Turntine thing didn't even get mentioned in all the replies of like 10 pages. So, hey, man, if Turntine goes the way we're expecting, like, hey, celebrate, man. Celebrate the ones you get, Texas fans. Don't sweat about the ones you're not going to get. Texas will be fine. I mean, missing out on Ojo is I don't know if I call it a big blow, but it was an unexpected blow, right? You feel like you almost got sucker punched after the way that thing was supposedly trending Texas's way for so long. And then you get the kind of the rug pulled out from under you. So I get it. It stinks. People like to look at car wrecks. So Felix Ojo is a big talking point, but John Turntine's a hell of a win for Texas if they can pull that one off here any moment, like we're expecting.
I love Turntine. It is, but it is also I think the conversation with every big time offensive lineman, Jason, moving forward, really is going to be how long is it going to take for that guy to get on the field, like realistically. And if the answer isn't year 2 at the latest, you can't afford to go in for that guy. And so I think it really will create an interesting deal in the future, because I could make a case. Like I think Felix Ojo should be in this Texas recruiting class. I'd have him. He's exactly the kind of talent that I preach that you should have in your program. As many of those guys as possible. I outline the reasons all the time, nonstop. But I can think that kid is super talented all I want to if I can't explain the pathway for him to get on the field, thus taking millions of dollars of investment capital that need to go into for a program that's trying to win a national championship now. I don't know that I can make a case that that's the best way to invest the money. And so it makes the deal that Texas did with Learfield even more relevant that came out this week. This idea that
they did 2026. So I was thinking this year as a freshman. Is he a starter 2026? Yeah, I think that's.
But he would be a freshman in 2026
redshirt freshman, yeah. But
no, John Turntine is in the recruiting class of 2020.
Oh, yeah, 2026. Yeah, what am I thinking? He's 20. Yeah, a true freshman. Yeah. So maybe Lane then means like 2027 because I don't know, Lane, you're confusing me. But if you're asking me like year 2, Lane, if you're putting it that way, could he be a starter? Absolutely. Year 1, first day on campus starter? Probably not. So.
He almost has to be because of what we're talking about. Now, I think he might need 3 years. I mean, because that's almost all of my adult life. I've been watching this sport and watching guys develop. And even the best offensive line of all time at Texas, arguably that 2002 class, Casey Studdard needed 3 years, and Lyle Sinline needed 3 years, and Jonathan Scott needed 3 years, and Tony Hills needed 3 years on that 2006 offensive line. And you think about the offensive line that just came through, we can look at guys, Cam Williams needed until his 3rd year. Only Kelvin Banks stands out as a guy that he just skipped to the front of the line. Everybody else has needed that third year before they've been a true plus player. Even going back to Christian Jones, who was starting at left tackle and everybody agreed sucked, eventually flips to the other side, eventually is capable. And then by the time he left, we were like, Christian Jones is good in year 6. So when guys get good and when and what you should be paying them, I think is a literal conversation that's taking place inside the football offices on the 40 acres and everywhere across college football right now. These are conversations that are being taken place right now. What's our budget? What's our budget? There's a conversation that's taking place on how much dead cap money, how much money in our revenue sharing can we commit to players who will not play right away? Jason, what do you think that number is? If I said 15 million is dedicated, just to give us a round number, 15 million of the revenue sharing money is completely dedicated to football. It might be 16 or 17, but let's just say 15 for the sake of this exercise. How much of the 15 can a program like Texas, Ohio State, or Georgia afford to not be contributing?
Don't ask me a question right now because Turntine just went live, so I'm trying to watch that while I'm sorry.
Well, I'll say this: we're waiting on John Turntine. What I would say, in fact, while everybody's waiting for Turntine, and there's like 3,500 people waiting, guys, just hang on. It's a perfect time for me to let Lisa give you this.
This summer, when the sun scorches and sanity is one sweat beat away from collapse, a hero rises. Specs, your cathedral of cold cans, your oasis of cool.
We're still waiting. Our girl, Michelle Lynn, who's become the queen of the show. And you should know Michelle, once upon a time, the queen of the show that Chad and I once did, ended up becoming the star of ESPN's Samantha Steele, later Samantha Ponder. She was the former queen of our show. I think you've replaced her. So
Michelle had her back on Twitter. I saw, like, if you guys would have listened to Jason 2 days ago, you'd have known this. So Michelle's like shooting up my list of my favorites. Yeah. So.
Jason Catch, the haters are jealous on the other sides on Twitter. Congrats on breaking the story. Ojo loving the drama. Laugh my ass off. Hope we get Turntine. Great week for Orange Bloods. Cheers and happy 4th. Thank you, Michelle. Michelle, and it's funny because, hey, Cody, he's saying turpentine. Turntine's eating Sour Patch Kids. They're my weakness. It's like my one weakness. That and iced tea. My wife literally just stopped in late last night and was like, I got you some Sour Patch Kids. And, I've had a few. I've had like 5 today. I haven't been in the Sour Patch Kids mood, but I understand Turntine going for them. Chip Brown once said,
just announced for Texas. So.
Well, then I won't. Thank you, Michelle. We'll get back to this in a second. John Turntine announcing for Texas. Let me just post my deal, make sure it's the right story, and I haven't posted the wrong story because that freaking happened. It's pinned. Jason, this is my headline in my instant analysis. Did I just say Dan Neal and Justin Blaylock in the same sentence? I'm a big fan. I really am a big fan of John Turntine. I just can't ignore the fact that, and ATX Base, I see your super chat. Let us talk about this a little bit. We'll get back to Ojo. I don't know when he gets on the field. When he does, I expect John Turntine to be an ass-kicking son of a gun for the Longhorns, but it's not something that I think happens on day one. I don't think he's a guy that you look at and go, oh, whatever the needs for Arch Manning are in his final year, presumably in 2026, I don't think John Turntine's available for it. The goal has to be get his ass in the lab, work him out, and get him ready. And in the offseason of 2027, as he goes into year 2, he needs to be ready to compete for a starting job, or this will not have worked out the way that it needs to when you recruit an offensive lineman of his cost, I suppose, with his pedigree.
Sorry, I posted my story. What I don't know what his cost is. I mean, Turntine's not a guy that's playing a lot of games. You know,
He's at least getting 700 to a million.
probably. I would think that's probably the ballpark. You know, how long can you? And we're talking about Brandon Baker. I mean, you pay a guy a big chunk of change, you expect him to contribute pretty early. Is John Turntine a guy that's going to come in year one? You know, I mean, unless he puts on about 30 pounds, I mean, that he has lost, probably not. So, but you're right, man. I mean, he is a hell of a football player. I mean, there was a time, there was a time like 6-9 months ago, nobody was talking about Felix Ojo. It was like, holy shit, John Turntine is the guy.
People were saying Michael Fasusi doesn't even matter.
Yeah, get Turntine, doesn't matter. Well, they just got Turntine, you know. And listen, we're not. That's not to take away from Felix Ojo's talents, but people have kind of forgotten. Everybody's been so focused on Ojo, they've forgotten just how good John Turntine is and what kind of prospect he is. So this, again, huge win for Texas. Big 4th of July victory for Texas after the day didn't start off so hot.
Yeah, and look, and I tell you what, again, what he really does, it stops this notion again that Texas is somehow in a slump. Had somebody yesterday or even earlier today that was, you know, kind of hitting me with this Texas has been in a disaster run. It's cool. Less than 2 weeks ago, Richard Wesley, the #1 edge player in the country, committed to Texas. They have a commitment from arguably, but maybe not arguably, the #1 quarterback in the country. So those two guys are like foundation pieces. Now they've added John Turntine. Over the course of the last 3 recruiting classes, they've averaged in the Rivals.com rankings 6 combined 5 stars and high 4 stars last 3 years in recruiting. They're at 3 now. Carlton commits in a couple of weeks, not even a couple of weeks. When he makes his announcement, he could be 4. And then we're sitting in July, and in order for them to hit the average that
Sorry, Matthews, the day after Jameer and Carlton, that could fall Texas's way. So that would
suddenly we're not even through the midway point of the summer, and Texas is 1 away from where they want to be ultimately, because that's where they will have been in each of. And I think I had somebody mention this to me last night. They were saying, you know what, in recruiting, because of the dynamics that are changing, it might not be about where your class is ranked when the final rankings come out. It might be about who are your 10 best guys. Because it might be that it really the Texas and the Georgias and the Ohio States, their ability to recruit the way Georgia and Alabama did half a decade ago, where Georgia and Alabama, like Georgia has 25 combined super blue chips on its roster going into the season. That number was in the 30s last year. It was like 31 or 32. So was Ohio State's. Ohio State's at 22. Texas is at 20. Georgia and Alabama were both above 40 5 years ago. The ability to put such a roster together in 2025 would essentially cost twice as much. Well, it would, I guess you could look at what Ohio State did a year ago and add an extra $10 million on top of it. And now in 2025 terms, that $20+ million roster that Ohio State had a year ago would cost at least 40, at least just the very next year, in a world where revenue sharing hadn't kicked in and deals have been grandfathered and some guys have gotten paid up front, and it'll cost more than 40 this year. So, you know, it's tricky. It's tricky. It is. These are the new conversations with regards to recruiting that we're having. I find them fascinating. It's a lot more like pro football. What do we talk about on draft night, Jason? When it's like, take the best player or take the best talent. And sometimes the best talent is at a position where your needs aren't as extreme. And so we end up having these conversations with the draft about who you take. What were your needs? How much does he immediately improve your team? These aren't necessarily the conversations that have historically existed when we talk about recruiting. And Texas is getting closer to hitting the minimum number of guys they need in this class in order for us to say at the top, was it a success? Yeah, they hit a half dozen. That will be their average. That's what they've been doing. Nobody else in the country is doing better than that. So there's no reason to freak out. But I think what we are seeing, Jason, this isn't going to be a class where they sign 10. That if they had gotten, the thing is, if they'd landed a couple of more in the last couple of weeks, if Ojo goes their way, if Crowell, the running back, picks Texas, suddenly by the end of this week, we would go, oh, they're at 6 and it's July and they only got 6 last year. And then we would say, Jesus, are they going to sign 9? Because we know they're going to get some in December. They will. They've proven they will close with some guys. But I think what we know is this class won't be the 2022 Texas A&M Aggies, and that kind of class may never be possible again.
Well, that's part of the problem. USC is putting together that kind of class, and A&M is not far behind them. I think some of Texas fans' angst catch is like, this is a good class, but they're looking at, okay, hey, A&M's classes, it's better than Texas's right now. It just is. USC's class is otherworldly. They get that 31 commitments, I think they're up to, USC, after picking up Booby Feaster today. So
the response to that, though, is easy. Now, whether or not anybody wants to, like, I've got the 2-point response to that. And the question then becomes, do you want to hear, is it an excuse or is it a reason? Because I always say sometimes an excuse is just the reason why something happens. I think there are 2 reasons. One, A&M doesn't have the talent on its roster right now in terms of collected super blue chips, 5 stars, high 4 stars. They've got 10 on their roster right now. Texas has 20. So what they have, what their outpour of spend is right now on this year's roster is less. A&M's roster is less valuable than Texas's roster. Same with USC. I think USC and A&M are tied. Each of them have 10. So on the books right now, they've got less accounted for. I think Texas would say we've got a roster with twice as many players that we have to pay for than they do. So there's that, which is a fair thing to point out. And then I think the thing that Texas would say, because I've had a source tell me this last night, and it remains to be seen whether or not this is something that comes to fruit. Because I had people last year go, oh, we're going to get to the spring portal and watch out. There's going to be a flood of good players. And then it turned out, wah, wah, wah. It really wasn't. And the portal in December wasn't much better. The talent in the portal this year looked a lot more like what you thought it would look like every year than kind of what I thought it would look like the year before when Cam Ward and like dudes were coming in everywhere, right? So I look at this and I say, it's that. It is, they didn't have the roster like that. And when players have to get paid in December and January, the Texas, the Georgias, and the Ohio States are looking at USC and A&M and going, okay, we see what you're doing in recruiting. We think when your players hit the portal in December, you're not going to have the revenue sharing money or the corporate partners to protect your roster. You're going to lose good players because of it. We'll see. Those are the reasons. Now, they can be excuses. They can be reasons. That's what my best sources would point to and say, that explains what A&M and USC are doing right now and why it's not Ohio State, it's not Georgia, it's not Texas, it's not Oregon, it's not Alabama. Those are the 5 schools in the last decade, with all due respect to A&M in 2022. And we know how that class got put together. With all due respect, there's a big 5. The 2 schools that are really making it rain in recruiting right now are not in the big 5, because the schools in the big 5 cannot do what A&M and USC are doing right now. It's not financially feasible.
Well, in the nutshell version, I'm sorry, I'm doing like 10 different things, but they're doing it because they have to. They're trying to catch up, right? I mean, and you're right. is that going to be sustainable when all those guys get on campus? Some of those guys might be ripe for the picking in a year or so.
Well,
right?
most of their roster are on deals that are paid for this year.
Yeah. And
there are very few players on the A&M roster that got paid the way Felix Ojo just got paid. There are very few guaranteed deals. Otherwise, we'd have seen them announced. I think it's fascinating that they put that out there because that
shocks me. Most guys, they try to keep their NIL stuff hush. As soon as he committed, his agent blasted it out there through different media outlets. I've never seen that. That's incredible. He's got a 5.1 million 3-year guaranteed contract. They wanted everybody knowing, hey, this is why he picked Texas Tech. You guys want to know? This is why he did it. I mean, it's like they had to justify.
They did. It was like, you know what?
They had to justify the big news
because they know that otherwise it's a bad decision.
Yeah. LeBron James is leaving the Lakers to go to the Clippers. Well, here's why. Because the Clippers are giving him.
And I say that, like, if Jason came to me and was like, ESPN's going to pay me $1 million, like, I can't be, Jason, where's your loyalty to Orange Bloods? I got to be like, give me a hug, dude. That is fantastic.
Take me to dinner at least, yeah.
All right, so let's run through some super chats and we'll wrap this up. We're almost 2 hours into the show, and I've got a bunch of stuff I still have to do. ATX Bates did say for $4.99, if Ojo's development goes like Micah Hudson's at Tech, will that establish a bad reputation that money isn't everything?
Good point, ATX. Now, Mike is back in Lubbock, of course, so we'll see if he can get that salvage and turn around his career. But, yeah, dude, if they go 0 for 2 on these big deals, and in Micah, I don't think his was all about NIL the way Felix is mostly about NIL. But, these are their 2 big fish. These are the only 5-star players, I believe, and someone can correct me. I think these are the only 5 stars they've ever signed at Texas Tech. If neither one of them pans out, boy, that's going to be some egg on the face because it doesn't look good when especially when your agent's blasting. Oh yeah, they're paying us $5.1 million, and then you don't pan out, and Micah Hudson maybe doesn't pan out. That's a bad look for Texas Tech. So we'll see.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Lane A jumps in for $10. Who has Clay McGuire sent to the NFL? Ojo not thinking long term, chasing the bag.
Ojo. I was looking back at some of my old stories on Ojo, and he did reference somebody but I don't even think it was an offensive lineman. So yeah, it's not in terms of like offensive line development, doesn't stack up certainly with, and when I talked to him on Sunday and he gave me his top 4, which is, we found out
this 2 weeks in a row now.
Yeah. That someone's given me. Yeah.
That someone's just flat out.
It's the new, yeah. I mean, Chase Calicut literally gave me commitment quotes. And then I found out an hour later, like, you're going to Georgia, dude. What's up? And he goes, yeah, sorry. Felix is like, he gave all of his quotes about his 4 quote unquote favorites were mostly about development. Kyle Flood's the best, man. He develops. Oh, Michigan, they have a history of developing offensive linemen. Ohio State, they've got a new coach, but he's really good at developing linemen. So development is what he was talking about, but clearly it's not that big of a factor, Lane. So you bring up a good point.
I just think, look, Lane, Felix is a 5-star. So he brings to the table about a 50% hit rate of being drafted as a 5-star. That's as good as it gets. Not 60, not 70, not like the quarterbacks. The offensive line numbers aren't quite as high, but 50% is way more than twice as high as any other rankings tier. It's probably more like 3 or 4 times as high compared to some of the other tiers, right? But it's still 50%. This moment, there's a 50% chance right now that this is the payday of his life. Now, there's a 50% chance that one day it won't be, that one day there will be a bigger payday. But there's a 50% chance there will never be another payday.
And that's why I think he's smart to take this deal. I mean, I hate it. You know what? Like, people on Orange Bloods last night were saying, like, well, dude, if he could make $2.5 million at Texas, the degree is worth much more. I'm like, yeah, but this is guaranteed 2.5 more. Like, he takes that catch, puts it in an investment account. It doesn't matter if his career pans out or not. He never has to work again if he doesn't want to. And I said, man, if somebody offers my kids $5.1 million over 3 years. I'm packing their bags for them, and I'm driving them to college the next day.
If you have to like tie them up and gag them and put them in the trunk, hey, you don't know what's good for you, kid.
Exactly. You're going to wherever the hell I'm taking.
I
say that as my college daughter just walked in the door, by the way. So.
Like, I don't care if you think Beirut is scary.
Yeah.
Bombs go off everywhere these days. So Lane, like, I just think there's a new way we've got to get comfortable talking about this. Like, I just, you're not wrong, but I can't blame the kid. And if I told you right now, I could give you $100 in your hand right now. But if I didn't, there's a 50% chance that in 3 years, I could give you 1,000. But you got to wait 3 years. And yet you potentially get nothing. Wouldn't you take the $100? Just give me the 100. 3 years from now, like, I just think that there's so many areas of life where if I just propositioned you and it was more money or the smart thing. I mean, look, if you offer me enough money, I would go run out onto I-35 traffic. I would. And you know, in my head, I'd be like, oh, I'll be okay. I might die though. But like, dude, there's always a price to make you go, I don't know, maybe I could survive falling off a building 4 flights up. I don't know. Like, you know that you probably won't, but boy, there's enough money out there for most people that like, there's almost a price for everything. I just can't be mad at Felix Ojo. I can't. And you guys can't be mad at me because I keep calling him Felix Jones. There just haven't been enough Felixes that have played football over the years. Is there anybody else other than Felix Jones?
I can't think of another Felix athlete, period.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm sure there's one out there, but I can't think of anyone.
I know I keep calling him Felix Jones, but he was a cowboy, first of all. Like, you have to forgive me. I keep calling him the former. If his name was Emmett, you better believe I'd be calling him Smith. Just so you know, how many Emmets are there? I'm going to do it with Emmett Mosley. There's no doubt in my mind that at some point this season, he'll be Emmett Smith. It's going to happen. Guys, we're going to wrap it up. We're at the hour 45 plus mark. Honestly, though, there's like almost 4,000 people watching the show live on YouTube, Twitter, all of the deals. Make sure you go check out orangebloods.com. We've had full coverage all day long. The new website is dope. Everybody seems to like it. I got to be honest. Jason and I would have expected, no matter how great it was, for there to be more complaining. I got to give our partners. I got to later today email them and go, guys, y'all did a pretty bang up job. Everybody seems happy. Come be happy with us. And you'll know this Ojo to Tech thing. We were talking about it on Orange Bloods on Tuesday night. We were talking about it on this show on Wednesday. Even yesterday, there were people in this market who were like, Orange Bloods, ha, ha, ha. They don't drive to games. They don't drive to practice. They don't give good information. We do this to their ass every single year.
Meanwhile, I've been at more recruiting events than anybody in this market since January.
Man, if you don't drive to Temple, how could you ever have good information on Jamar? It's like,
I plan on being in Temple next week, by the way, but I mean between 7-on-7s and down on campus and airport. And Dallas. I've been somewhere every weekend. My kids and wife would tell you that. But
Jason and I went to journalism school. You know what they didn't tell us at journalism school? We absolutely had to do? Go to the DMV and get a driver's license. I swear to God, not once in any of our journalism classes did they go, hey, you know, if you're not driving out to the stories, there's just no way you'll ever be good. Anyway, we've had it right. We've been talking about it transparently all week long. Some people woke up in the last 24 hours and had to do the, Orange Bloods was right thing, just like they did 4 years ago to this day with Kelvin Banks. This happens a lot.
That's right. That was 4 years ago to the day when we were on top of that going to Oregon too. And everybody else was like, no, Texas. And we're like, no.
Orange Bloods didn't know what to do. And we went and saw Kelvin Banks in person 5 times. And it was like, no, motherfuckers. Kelvin Banks is going to Oregon. You guys don't know. Maybe listen instead of being so quick to like want to pile on us for sport because it's your dopamine hit. And I get it. I'm the kind of guy that you want to hit with a stick because it gives a good dopamine hit. But we keep being right about these things and people keep forgetting. And I'm going to remind you guys, stop stepping on your you-know-what. Every single 4th of July, it seems to happen a lot. FYI, it's a 4-year anniversary, and next year it'll be the 5-year anniversary and the 1-year anniversary of today. Stop talking shit. Just do your job. How hard is that? For myself and Jason Sukamel, it's the 4th of July. We have jobs to go do. Maybe you can set off some fireworks. I don't know. You guys have a fantastic rest of the day. Hit that thumbs up button on the way out. It's the least we can ask for, right? In addition to supporting our partners and going over to Orange Bloods, we do ask for a lot. I apologize for that. You guys have a great rest of the day. Happy 4th of July. Happy John Turntine Day. Texas got him. That is not insignificant.